Today we're going to look at evidence law, which another way to describe what evidence law is, it's rules about evidence you're not allowed to use or that you are allowed to use in cases in court. And this can be civil cases, it could be criminal cases. A lot of the examples we'll look at today will be criminal cases, but the rules apply to civil cases as well. So what is evidence? First, we kind of have to establish a few basics here. Evidence is all the means by which any alleged fact is established or disproved. Okay, so that just essentially means that evidence is anything that shows that one of the facts you're bringing in front of the judge is true or not true if you're on the other side. Now, in order to make more sense of that, it's important to understand that at any court case, there's issues of fact and issues of law. And issues of fact are really about, well, what exactly happened? Issues of law are, what exactly do those facts mean? And these are two different things that are going on. Usually you're establishing fact through evidence, and then you're arguing about those facts based on the law. Let me give you an example. If you look at, let's say, video footage that shows somebody pointing a gun at somebody and that person gets killed. So the actual video footage would be evidence, right? It's about facts establishing exactly what happened in this case. And let's say in this video footage, we also see that the person who has the gun that goes off and the person that ends up killing the person, we see that the person was blindfolded and sleepwalking. This is the person walking around, right? This is also evidence. This is also facts in the case. Now, the law takes these facts that we see this person blindfolded, sleepwalking with a gun, and it goes off and it kills somebody. The law then takes those facts and makes a decision about them. The facts on themselves don't decide what the law is. Instead, the law gets applied to those facts, and in this case, it would most likely be that the person who is holding the gun that kills the other person would be found innocent of murder because the law doesn't convict sleepwalkers of murder. It's like, oh, does that happen that often? Well, it doesn't happen very often, but we'll see a case later in the year when it does. So let's look at another maybe more concrete example. If you look at this photo, there's a few things that you could probably tell from looking at it, right? You guys would notice that this ball is in the air, that this up here is the shot clock, right? Or it's possibly the whole timer for the quarter. I think the bigger numbers here would be the shot clock. So anyway, one way or another, there's 0 seconds left on the clock. But from what it looks like here, the ball is in the air as this timer runs out. Now, what most of you guys would be able to tell me is that, well, as long as it leaves your hands before the buzzer sounds, then even if the ball goes into the net after time is up, the basket will still count, right? So in terms of what the facts would establish, the facts are just establishing that this projectile is in motion before the timer goes. That's what the facts are. In terms of the rules of basketball, they're the ones that say that, well, as long as that's the case, this basket is going to count if it goes in. Compare it to a case like this. Here we have video footage that shows, I don't know if you can see this blurry thing here. This blurry thing is the puck. And the timer here has hit 0.0. So time has run out. And the puck hasn't completely crossed the line here. This isn't exactly a top-down view, but the puck hasn't completely crossed the line. So what the facts are showing us is that as time had fully expired, the puck had not completely crossed the line. The projectile is in motion. If this were a basketball game, applying basketball rules to these facts, this would count. But because there are different rules, even though we have essentially the same facts, a puck in motion, going to go into the net without touching anything, even though time has run out, it's already been shot, it's still not going to count as a goal because it hasn't crossed the line. And that's because the rules are different. The law is different in this sport than what it is in basketball. What the facts are showing us is one set of information, and then the rules that get applied decide what actually is going to count. So just for you to understand the difference between facts versus law. Okay, now facts is really what evidence concerns itself with, but there's also a kind of law that specializes in deciding what kind of evidence you can actually use. And that's what we call evidence law. Really, evidence law is what sources of information are we allowed to use in court to figure out what happened. And you might just assume, well, can't you just show anything that tells you the truth? Well, no. Evidence law is a lot like sports in some ways. Like, for example, if you look back a couple of years to when the St. Louis Blues were in overtime against the San Jose Sharks, and this guy here, Timo Meier, is in the process of making a hand pass. The puck moves over to Erik Karlsson, who's over here, who shoots the puck. It goes in. It counts as an overtime goal. Now, in that game, the rules in the NHL are that you can review a goal, but you can only review some kinds of things. You can review the goal, but if the referee doesn't see something that's too far removed from the goal, like a couple of actions removed from the goal, then they're not allowed to review it. Right? In this case here, the hand pass, it's not like he threw the puck into the net. That they could have look at footage of that. But since the hand pass was to another player who then shot it in, that's not something they were allowed to review using VAR. They had the facts there available to them, but they weren't allowed to look at the evidence. There was evidence law in the NHL that said you can't look at the information even if you have it. That's kind of what evidence law does. It decides for some reasons, for some policy reasons usually, we're going to decide even if the information is out there and available, we're not going to look at it. Now, the reason why the NHL doesn't allow this to be reviewed in a case like this is they say, okay, we don't want to review everything the whole game. At the time, they really said we want to just limit it to really, is this a goal from when the guy shot it? Did he kick it in? Anything like that? Did it go into the net? But if you start going too far back from that instant of the shot going into the net, then you can go back forever and ever. We have to draw the line somewhere, and they drew it before this guy's hand pass that effectively scored the goal. So the NHL has evidence law, and of course courts do as well.